87% of realtors that get into the business get out of the business after 2 years. That does not exist in our world.
We have massive visions around growing our businesses, and we are always looking to add talent to our world. We do everything in our power to ensure the people we surround ourselves with defy the odds, get into production, and build massive lives for themselves.
We have interviewed some of the top realtors in the world. If you're a new realtor, a top producer, or CEO of a mega team, SalesBeast Podcast is your blueprint for success.
With locations all across Canada, reach out to us to talk about partnership and opportunities. We are looking forward to it.
Yes, I'm the boss.
All right, welcome to SalesBeast Podcast. Today, I'm very grateful to be joined by the lovely Farah from Alt Interiors. How are you today?
I'm wonderful. Thank you so much, Anna, for having me on as a guest.
Yeah, I'm so excited. I mean, this is, first of all, the first time we're using our podcast studio, so we're really excited about that. And being able to bring in such an amazing guest, I feel honored.
Well, I have to say, I just heard your story, and I feel like you're the most impressive person in the room after hearing what you've accomplished, but thank you so much for saying so.
Yeah, no, thanks for coming in, and I really just want to start at the beginning. So tell me a little bit about you growing up. I want to start in your childhood.
Whoa.
Tell us a little bit about that.
Sure. So growing up, born and raised in Toronto, my parents were both entrepreneurs. They came here from East Africa with literally like nothing. And they started up two businesses. One was an Indian rental, like Blockbuster.
Yeah.
But for Indian movies.
Oh, cool.
In Little India, in Toronto. And the second one was English movies. This is when Blockbuster used to be a
thing.
Yeah. And growing up, instead of me going to, say, birthday parties or Wonderland, I used to go to the store with my parents. So I learned from a very young age the hustle and bustle of being an entrepreneur. But growing up, I always wanted to be a journalist. So I went to Ryerson for journalism and started working as a news reporter for CFRB on the radio. And I realized that it wasn't for me because, as you know, the news can be very negative. And so my news director said, well, why don't you try weather? And then I got my meteorology degree, and then I became a meteorologist.
Oh, that's so cool.
Yeah, so I started working at City TV. Well, started with CBC and then City TV in Toronto, which was my dream job.
Well, one of my best friends, her mom worked at the Weather Network.
What's her name?
Carrie.
Yes.
You know Carrie?
Me and Carrie used to work together.
Oh my god.
Yeah,
she's at TSC now.
Yes.
I love that. Yeah,
Carrie knows exactly who I am. In fact, Carrie trained me at the Weather Network.
That is so funny. Yeah, so my best friend Kylie, that's
her mom. There you go. What a small world.
We had Kylie on the podcast too. She's now in environment. She's an environmental scientist, so she came in and talked all about that stuff.
Oh, cool. Well, I guess she's the apple doesn't fall far from the trees, considering that her mom was a meteorologist.
I know,
as well.
That's so funny.
Shout out to Carrie.
Shout out to Carrie. We love Carrie. But no, that's awesome. I love hearing about your childhood. I'm a child of immigrants as well. I'm an immigrant, came to Canada in 2001, and I think we grew up very similarly. Like, both of my parents were entrepreneurs growing up. They had their own businesses. They never really had a job. They created their own businesses, like a restaurant, daycare, to be able to support our families. And on the weekend, that's what I was doing. I was helping them build those businesses, right?
So we have a very similar upbringing.
Very similar upbringing.
That makes sense.
So how do you think that impacted you and where you're at in life today?
I always knew from a young age that money doesn't grow on trees. You know, there's a lot of sacrifice in terms of hard work and, being able to be focused on priorities outside of partying and spending money. Like, I learned that from a very young age. And those are qualities that just stuck with me in everything that I did. But what led me into the world of staging was having my daughter. And realizing, because I was happy as a meteorologist at City TV. I thought this was going to be where I stayed, and I grew, and that's that. But once you have children, you realize priorities change. I wanted to be at home with her more, and I couldn't do that when I was working at City because the news was on at 5, 6, and 11 o'clock at night. And so I wouldn't see my daughter throughout the day. So instead, what I did was I hung on to my full-time job at City, but outside of City, I started building a design business. And then it got so busy that I had to make a difficult choice, which was then to leave City and pursue staging and interior design.
What do you think was the trigger or the turning point for you to be able to say, okay, now I'm making that move. I'm going from my full-time stable job that I've been doing for so long into now being my own boss and being an entrepreneur.
Honestly, it wasn't sleeping or eating at that point because my schedule looked like this. Like between 4 a.m. till about 2 p.m. I was working on my business while at home with my new daughter. And then from 3 p.m. to midnight, I was working at City. So I really was sleeping less than 4 hours a day because it was getting so busy. And I realized it's time to make a decision. And I chose the staging and interior design space because I really saw the value in helping people, you know, with their biggest investment, make the most money possible. To me, that was way more rewarding. But hey, funny enough, I was recently at City Line promoting ALT, so
that's
it was
cool.
It was like it came full circle to me. Yeah.
So that's 9 years ago now when you first had to make that decision and you started that business. So walk me through the past 9 years. What are some of the challenges that you've had to overcome in growing a business, a team? Tell me a little bit about that.
Where do you start?
Right.
Nobody gives you a playbook when you open up a business. Everything is like learn as you go. You have to spend a lot of money in order to make money. That's what I found. I think in the beginning I was under the impression that I should try to do, you know, what I could with what I had.
Like as frugally as possible.
As frugally as possible. But that wasn't serving our clients and it wasn't serving the vision I had for ALT. It was when I made the switch and said, you know what, I'm gonna at sometimes operate at a loss, but I'm gonna put the best product I can out there. That's when everything changed. It took me about 4 to 5 years before I started earning any income for myself. I was paying my staff, I was paying the rent, I was paying for inventory, and I was operating at a loss for myself. And I think it's that kind of commitment and tenacity in business that you need in order to survive. Now we've built up the inventory, now we've built up great staff, and now you can see the fruits of the labor. But it wasn't until 5 years in where most people would say, what the hell am I doing this for?
Yeah, how long are they willing to wait for the delayed gratification? Most people give up after 3 months.
Exactly,
right?
and I didn't. I held it. I knew that this was so much bigger than the money. Like, I became more focused, hyper-focused on becoming a go-giver, not a go-getter.
I love that book, by the way.
Selling Ninja?
Well, there's the Go-Giver book.
Oh,
right?
okay.
Yeah.
I got it from
it's in the selling. Yeah, Ninja Selling is good too.
Yeah, but as soon as I started focusing my efforts on how can I help and be of service, everything changed. Like now we have 12 people on staff. We do 40 to 60 stages a month. Plus we have interior design and a retail shop. And I'm such at peace. Like I can finish at 4 o'clock, spend time with my daughter. So I mean, like that's one of the lessons I learned.
Yeah, that's one of the lessons. Have you, in terms of where you started and where you're at right now, did you always start as Alt Interiors? Did you ever go through any kind of branding? Name
Big
changes?
time. Yeah, we used to be called a ladies touch.
Yes, so that's what Alt stands for.
Yeah, it stands for a ladies touch. And if you look at my old logo, people make fun of it because it kind of, you can't tell if it's a Christmas tree or if it's a dress or if it's a chandelier. Essentially, when I registered the business, I'm the type of person, if I have something to do, I just need it to get done, and I'm not a fine tuner, detail type of person.
Right.
I'm above here. I work.
You're in the field.
Yeah,
You're doing the thing.
I just like to get things like checked off my list. So the first logo I saw, I'm like that'll do.
Yeah.
And then my team, which I've hired to be excellent designers, excellent marketers, excellent customer service people, helped me, I guess, fine tune the brand. And we've cultivated this beautiful logo and this beautiful brand that many people say it's very elevated and excellent. So yeah, it took a journey. It did.
Yeah, it has a luxury feel at this point, and I'm sure like most people that do go through changes like that in marketing and branding, they're sometimes fearful, and they want to stick with what they know because they're worried that people won't recognize them. But I think that when you are the business owner, you have to remove that from your mind and your vocabulary. Like people will follow you; they won't follow like branding. And obviously, you had success at the beginning, whatever your branding looked like.
Right.
But then you're able to refine it over time. But not getting attached to something is so important, right?
Absolutely. I didn't even realize that people weren't equating it to the same company. It wasn't until I was in a room with realtors and they said, "Have you heard of ALT?" And I'm like, "Yeah, that's my company."
Yeah.
And they're like, "Oh, I thought you were Ladies Touch." I'm like, "Well, that's what ALT stands for." But you know, we put up such a good product that, regardless of the logo or the name, you know, people were gravitating to it.
Yeah, no, I love that. And so when did you make the choice to start building a team and remove yourself from being the sole business owner, self-employed individual, but actually being a team leader now?
It really wasn't until this year that I realized I really have to step back. Like, it took me a long time to get to where I am today. So I thank my team members for putting up with me. I read a lot of books, right? I think that that's important. And one of the books on leadership, it demonstrates the importance of autonomy and allowing the people that you trust to do right by you and allow them to grow into the role. And I think up until this year, really, I was always kind of like a bit of a micromanager. Like, I could do that, or don't worry about this, or it's on me, I can do this, do it like this, do it like this, do it like this. And of course, my team member they all respect me. So I never heard any pushback, but I could feel the morale of it not being as good as it could be. So
you weren't letting them own their job.
Right.
You were still taking
I was
pieces
still
of
like,
it.
I got this. You know what? This isn't gonna work. I got it. And now I'm like, listen, I trust you. Even if you fail, I have your back.
That's so important. Having to lead people, you can't make them fearful of failing.
Right.
They have to mess up. They have to fuck up and
Yes.
you know, fail in many different ways, because then when they do that, they're going to learn the most from it. So
Yeah.
I think as a leader, when you step in and you try to save them all the time and try
Yes.
to be there so that they don't fail, you end up like actually harming them in their future opportunities.
And their
Because
self-confidence.
Their confidence as well.
It's like, oh, I can't do this on my own. Yes, you can. And now that I take this approach, it's wonderful because they do things better than I ever could. And it made me realize, like, you should have done this a long time ago, really. But I think building a team really comes down to hiring people that are helping you in areas that you need help in. I never went to design school. I don't have a degree in interior design. I have an idea. Like I said, I'm a big thinker.
You're a visionary.
I'm a visionary. So I hired people that are very good at those details. And they have led us to this new sort of ALT signature look that we profit off of, right? So understanding like what you're really good at and do that really well, and then put people in positions that they want to enjoy doing and can do really well. That's how you build a good team.
100%. I see it in real estate all the time that, you know, there's a lot of ego, and it's a great thing. And it's also a very negative thing for growth, because if you have too much ego, you can't let people be who they are. And so I come across a lot of agents that want to grow a team, but they're not willing to let go or willing to let people own their jobs. And that's really what holds them back.
Yeah. I mean, we all have ego. We all have ego.
We all have it.
But what I do is I've been practicing this mindfulness and gratitude, and every time I'm speaking to somebody, including you, I'm always saying, I'm so grateful that you're spending this time with me. Or if I'm speaking to a team member and they're speaking to me, I take a moment and I say, I'm so grateful that you would want to work here and invest your time with me. And it just puts you into a different sort of mindset.
For sure.
As opposed to you're younger than me, or that's negative. Yeah, but when you put yourself into a place of gratitude, wow, the abundance and the excellence.
All the things that show up are crazy, right? Yeah, I'm in the same boat too. I think practicing gratitude is so important. It's the highest form of energy creation, and when you show up with gratitude in everything that you do, things will always just be better regardless. So whether it's a conversation that you want to ignore or that you're avoiding, if you just show up with gratitude regardless of the outcome, it's gonna work out in your favor.
Yeah, because everything is something to be grateful for, even challenges, because they help build your character and they help build your tenacity towards other challenges. Just makes you stronger. And I recently said that to one of my designers. I said, listen, I know you're being challenged by our clients right now. You know, sometimes it's a thankless job. You're not going to get that, but it has to come from somewhere. You put up great energy and it will come from another source.
Exactly.
Might not come from that source, but you'll see it in different ways.
Yeah, 100%. I think, and one thing I gotta mention is, like, you are so genuine, and I find sometimes we're all in sales, and it can come off in genuine in different ways, and like people out there are fake at times, and like the ego plays into that. But every single conversation I've had with you, you are so genuine, and so like the gratitude that you do give off shows up.
Thank you
and
so
so
much.
I can see from a leader perspective, from a service provider perspective, how much will come to your world because of that.
I feel very favored. I feel very blessed. I think I honestly, I wake up and I can't believe this is my life. I just can't. I tell you this because I look at the news and I see what's happening in Gaza, and I think there's a reason. There must be something bigger than this. For why are we so blessed to be here? I feel like we have to do something. We have to give back. And whether that's in small little things, just by being a kind person, feeding someone, buying someone lunch, just being a nice person, that's our way of giving back, I think. So that's why it's so important to me to do that.
I love that. What are some of the things that your team is envisioning for the future as Alt continues to grow and expand? I'd love to hear a little bit more about what you guys are planning.
I would love a television show about staging.
Oh my gosh.
Or about interior design. Like, I know that there's a lot of real estate shows out there, and there's even some design shows. But can you imagine how entertaining it would be to see a team of individuals literally design a home in one day? Because that's what we do.
It's like, what's that show, Extreme Home Makeover?
Okay.
Extreme Makeover Home Edition. Did you
Yeah.
ever see that show?
No.
It was like a family would want their like home redesigned, and like they would get picked by this company, and then the company would come in and like redesign their whole home in like a week.
Oh,
So they'd
wow.
like ship them off, and then they'd bring them back, and there'd be like
Totally different.
there'd be a bus in front of the house, and they'd be like, move that bus, and they'd move the bus, and it's like their new house.
No,
And they just-
exterior too?
Well, sometimes they would do the exterior as well. So,
In
like,
1
they're-
week?
Yeah.
Okay,
like
so
they had like
that's
a whole
crazy.
crew in there, but that
Yeah.
was like one of my favorite shows.
Right?
growing up. I'm not even joking.
There you
I
go.
could see a staging show being on that level of entertainment.
Yep.
I'm sure like behind the scenes,
you
guys are sweaty, like moving the furniture, and it would be hilarious to watch, and at the same time, so like you would get a lot of knowledge and entertainment from it.
Absolutely. And it's a different concept, right? Like when I've been pitching the show to networks, they keep saying, well, is it a big enough transformation? Yes. You got to see it to believe it. And it's also adding tremendous value. Like if you take it as far to show, okay, especially in today's market, because it's another healthy one, you've noticed the change, I'm
Yeah,
sure.
100%.
We've seen price tags 192 over asking, 175 over asking, and their staging investment is as little as $4,000. So imagine spending $4,000 and then earning over $100,000 back. Like that to me is amazing, and all because of decor.
Yeah, no, you have to. You're essentially creating a place for somebody to walk in and picture it as their home.
That's right.
That doesn't necessarily always happen when it's just anyone's home.
That's right.
It has to create the ecosystem, the environment, the feel, the vibe.
You got it.
And that's so important.
It's very important, and people have a hard time disconnecting from their home when they're selling it. It's like, well, we're not designing the home for you, seller. We are marketing the home for the
next
buyer.
person,
Yes. And it's important to distinguish what's interior design and what's staging. Staging should be called marketing. It's home marketing. That's what it is. And with interior design, that's all about the homeowner. That's not staging.
I love it. Well, do you have a name for the potential show, or do you have some?
There's a few being
names
tossed.
floating
There's
around?
a few being tossed around right now.
Okay.
One of them is just staged.
Okay.
I thought that was
like
cute. Yeah, but we'll see. We'll see where that takes us. I'm sure when it's ready, when we're ready, the opportunity will come.
Yeah, the opportunity will show up. I love it. Well, I wanted to give you also an opportunity to talk a little bit about how you work. So walk us through the process of working with Alt and what somebody can expect. I personally have not worked with you in this capacity before, but a lot of our agents have, and that's the reason we chose to partner with you. So I want to hear from you about your perspective so you can share with our listeners.
Well, Anna, you can call me and I'll make it happen in a day.
No, for sure.
Like,
Yeah.
you don't even, but I'm just kidding. What I mean by that is, the reason that we're successful is because we have processes and systems in place, right? So the first thing you want to do is visit our website, altinteriors.ca, and you would fill out a quick online intake form. We would call you within 24 hours and we would ask, is the property vacant or occupied? And if the property is vacant, then we'd say, send us a floor plan or pictures or an old listing, because we're able to turn over a quote quickly that way.
Cool.
If the property is occupied, it's in your best interest to potentially book a consultation with the designer so we can walk through the space with you and the seller and make recommendations that the seller would need to do in preparation for our arrival. Things like perhaps paint the walls, perhaps reposition your furniture, perhaps declutter, perhaps upgrade hardware, lighting. Once the seller makes the choice to do these recommendations and the house is prepared, we go in and we stage right after. And once it's sold, we go in and we destage. Simple as that.
So simple.
So easy.
I love what you said about having systems and processes, because I mean, the big thing that I talk about, especially with our agents, is when you're going from a self-employed individual to a business owner, the big differentiation is having people's tools and systems that are going to allow you to leverage your time to make more money and grow and be more profitable. So systems and processes are my
So
jam.
important. They're without it, you're running like a chicken with your head cut off. Yeah, and people can tell when you're working and operating in a field of chaos as opposed to a field of calmness. Because when you're calm, despite everything around you being chaotic, all of a sudden they trust you more.
You see the confidence.
Yeah, there's confidence there because it's like, I know what I'm doing. I have predictable results. I have a slew of stage to sold examples to show you that prove what we're doing is helpful.
Replicatable, duplicatable,
teachable,
100%.
scalable, all of that. And nobody taught me this. This was all me learning from books and always striving to just be the best version of myself.
It's so admirable, honestly. Like, to take it from nothing to such a massive organization and such an amazing service.
Thank you.
Is huge, and in a short span of, you said 9 years, right? I mean, 10 years. What are you going to do? A big party for your 10-year anniversary?
We should.
You totally should. You're welcome to use our space.
Oh, thank you. I might take you up on that.
No, that's so cool. When is your 10-year anniversary?
It would be April next year.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, we'll start talking about
Okay. I like that.
I love it. So, coming back to you growing this business, you building a team, getting to where you're at today, what would you say are some of the biggest lessons that you've had?
You never want to burn a bridge. You know, when I started this business, I remember being up against male egos and just literally telling them right off. I shouldn't have done that. You know, like, it doesn't serve you to be brought down to their level. Instead, I wish that I just kept my mouth shut and just kept, working away, and proving it. And I have already with the success of ALT, but this one gentleman said to me, without me, you would never be able to work in a big house. You'd be doing little condos and townhouses your whole life.
Oh, God.
How do you not respond to that, right?
Yeah.
Especially someone young in the industry. I absolutely shot back. But at the end of the day, it's a small industry, and you shouldn't have to prove yourself through words. You just let your actions speak for yourself. So that's one of the biggest lessons I learned. You never want to burn a bridge. And I don't know, what other lessons? How about you, Anna? What lessons have you learned?
I mean, I think last year generally was probably one of the years that I learned the most. Been in the industry for about 8 years, and last year was my biggest learning opportunity. There were so many things that changed, right? I think previously I entered real estate when things were not so chaotic and not so hectic, and there was not as much government stuff coming into place, and it was a lot easier. It really was. It was easy. I was also working in a market where it was easy to do deals because there was lower price points, right? And now, so last year, obviously, in leadership roles, when finances, the economy's down, there's so many more. You said challenges before, and I like saying instead of challenges, opportunities, right? There's so many more opportunities. There's a lot more difficult conversations that need to happen. And, in previous, sometimes I would run away from these kind of conversations and be scared or be fearful. But because last year posed an opportunity to have a lot of difficult conversations, I feel so much better prepared to handle a lot more situations. So I think that in itself, being able to have those difficult conversations and and working with people and all of the amazing things that come with that has been such a big learning opportunity.
Yeah, sometimes the storms aren't as bad as we think. It feels like shit when you're in them.
Yeah.
But then you look back and you're like, I wouldn't have learned how to do this, and this.
Yeah.
And, similarly, last year was a tough year for staging because properties were not selling in 30 days and people wanted it for longer terms. And, that hurts us because then we have more furniture out and no one's paying for renewals and we have to still service more clients. So it was extremely difficult. And then it just became so stale that no one was calling. And I got so worried. I thought, oh my God, like we still have to pay rent. We still have to pay payroll. How are we going to do this? Well, you know what? I started door knocking different brokerages.
I love that.
And now you see all of them coming into fruition. All those, I would never have made those connections unless I did that during that time of worry and fear. But now it's all coming to light. And I'm so grateful for that.
Yeah. No, I love it. Even our connection, you showed up at our brokerage and we had an instant connection.
Exactly. It was door knocking, and I'm so glad that I made the connection. Otherwise, we wouldn't be here right now.
Well, that's the thing. When you show up, things happen.
Exactly.
Right? I love it. And I think another lesson too is like being able to adapt. Right? I think both of us in both sides of our industry, last year really showed that we can't keep doing things the same way.
Yes.
We have to be able to adapt and do things differently. And there's people that have been in the business for 30 plus years that are now having to learn different ways to do the business.
Yes.
And whether they're willing to or not, they're either going to be pushed out or continue to be able to build and take market share.
100%. What we were doing post-COVID, and pre-COVID is totally different from how we're operating now post-COVID. Another lesson I'll say is learning to say no.
Learning to say no?
Yeah, and valuing your time. I feel like as we've grown, there's been a lot of people that want to meet with me or see me or do things with me, and I feel bad when I say no, or I feel like, oh, I'm going to let this opportunity go. But you know what's most important and the most valuable currency we have is time.
Yeah.
So I choose to be very protective of it. I put boundaries up, and also to say no to clients who are not going to be worth your time. Like, I would do anything to secure a deal. Like if someone was finagling this and then that, I would say yes, and then you give them the world, and then they wouldn't be happy.
Well, that's the thing. When those small signs of discontent show up at the beginning, likely they're either going to leave you or complain throughout a service.
There you go. And I didn't know that. I was like, I can't say no to business. That's insane. No, you absolutely can and should. And then it allows for greater opportunity because you have more room now.
More bandwidth, yeah.
Yeah, to take on better business. And you have to trust the process. Like I have grown my faith really, like in the last say 6 months. Been listening to a lot of Joel Osteen podcasts, and that's really centered me and made me realize, like, it doesn't matter what you believe, what faith but there absolutely is this energy that is like you can only control what you can control, and the rest you really have to just see. That's a sign.
That's a sign. That's so great.
right that you just have to have faith that it's going to be okay.
Well, that's the thing, and it's so funny you bring that up because I've been going through a very spiritual journey myself in the last year. Grew up Catholic and then have been really trying to find my way back to faith. And through a lot of conversations that I've had, the biggest thing that has come of that is life happens for you, not to you. And we have to have faith every single day, whether people realize it or not. We get in our car, we have to have faith that getting in our car and getting us to our destination is going to be a safe trip, right? Yeah. And faith shows up in many different ways, especially when we have a year like last year with the economy and so many people in pain. Faith is the only thing that can really get us through it.
Because what's your other option? You're just going to
be wallowing.
You're going to sit there in anxiousness and fear. Like, that's no way to live. Who knows when our last day is on earth? So why not make every single day a happy, joyful day?
Do you know Ed Milet?
Ed Milet, yeah.
So he's got a book called One More.
I love that book.
It's such a good book. I got a chance to see him last year speaking, and man, that lesson is just what if you could just do one more?
Yeah.
You had one more day, one more second.
Right.
And when it comes to relationships and when it comes to even friendships, anything like that, just being purposeful with your time and like being present is so important.
That is such a good book. If you take one thing away from this podcast, it's the Ed Mylett book, The Power of One More. He even, I think there was this this talk about your temperature, chapter 1, chapter 2. He's like, sometimes, you know, your confidence is not at the same temperature of where you have grown to, and then you self-sabotage yourself.
That is so fair, yeah.
Right? And then you bring the temperature, you bring your success back to the temperature that you're comfortable with.
Not the one that you have the potential to be.
Yeah, and that made me realize, like, I need to level up here, you know? Like, you can't, like, stop being fearful of it and embrace it. It's happening for you. And that was that stuck. I love that.
Yeah, that's a great takeaway. No, I love it. And do you listen to any specific, you mentioned Joel Osteen.
Yeah.
Do you listen to that Mylett podcast?
No, I don't listen to his podcast.
Okay, he's got a great podcast and he's got on some great guests. There was an episode with Matthew McConaughey, like not that long ago. You should definitely
listen to that one.
Watch that one. That one's so good.
I will.
But I know that you're very learning based. So what books or podcasts have you been listening to that you could recommend?
So right now I'm listening on Audible, The Selling Ninja.
Okay.
There was another one that my husband told me to listen to. I wish. How to Buy Back Your Time.
Okay.
If you're building a team, this is an incredible book.
Okay.
One of the lessons that stuck with me is, sure, you probably are the best salesperson on your team, but even if someone does it at 80%, and you could do it at 100, but they're doing it at 87, that's still so awesome because you don't have to do it. It doesn't have to be perfect.
Yeah.
It just has to get done.
Exactly.
So there's this, each chapter is like how to have an assistant. You shouldn't be checking your emails. He brings up who's that guy that owns the planes? White hair.
Oh, Richard Branson.
Richard Branson. That he had a meeting with Richard Branson, and on this meeting Richard had his assistant with him, and this guy's running a multi-billion-dollar corporation. You think he looked at his phone once? He was so present because he had
leverage.
Yeah. You know, so it's you got, and it's not you that's paying for your staff. It should be the business that's paying for your staff. It's doing that well, right?
And also, by you having that time back, in turn, you should see a return in your business because your business grows to the extent that you do, and that person grows alongside you, right?
1000%. Like if you're running a business and you're stressed and chaos, and you're not sleeping and you're not eating, listen to How to Buy Back Your Time.
That's a good one. I feel like I've read that before, but do you know who the author is?
I don't know that.
Okay, because everything that you just said sounds really familiar.
Yeah.
Whether I've heard it through there or some other means, like those are really great lessons as well.
And listening to them on Audible. Like you're always, if you're in this industry in your car a lot, so, you know, listen to books. Don't listen to the news.
My best hack is like put it on like 1.5 speed and just like listen through it.
Yeah. We have a lot in common.
Yeah.
This is like my first time sitting down and actually getting
having
to know
a full conversation.
Yeah, I love it. Yeah.
No, this is really good. Well, you know, I want to start ramping up to close down the podcast, but I think it's been so good having you, and I'm sure we'd love to have you back again for sure, maybe for our team building podcast as well.
Thank you. Yeah, sure.
But I want to ask you, and this is something that we ask all of our guests, but who do you think would be a great fit to be on the Sales Weeks podcast as well?
Ooh, so many people. Okay, so my favorite gentleman, his name's Nick Regina. He's big.
Oh, I know Nick.
You know him?
Yeah.
Great energy.
Yeah.
He's big on meditation and mindset.
It's so funny. I ran into him at the Tony Robbins Unleash the Power event a couple years ago.
No way! Why doesn't it surprise me that he was there?
Yeah.
Yeah, so he's definitely great energy, and he runs a very successful mortgage company, finance company, and he's helping a lot of people with their money investment.
Did you do his office?
I did design it. No, he actually
didn't? Okay.
Yeah, he actually had someone internally do it. He did ask us, but he did it internally.
Okay,
But he has a podcast as well.
But I think I did see you before I met you. I think I saw you somehow on his social media.
Yeah. I helped him with his podcast room.
Okay, that's cool.
Yeah.
Okay,
but he's also got a great podcast, so you should be on that one as well.
Okay, well, we'll have to make it happen.
Yeah.
Between all of us. I love it.
Awesome.
Well, thanks so much for joining us today,
you.
Farah. It was so good to learn about you and hear about your amazing journey and building this company, and we're really excited to be in partnership with you and see all of the amazing things that we can do together.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, likewise.
Every day I'm hustling. Every day I'm hustling. Every day I'm hustling. Every day